Welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast and YouTube. This is your host, Lisa Tomei. I'm so pleased today to have David Martin, all the way from Omaha, Nebraska. He is the founder of Fine Lines Literary Journal, and I'm very, very pleased to have you here with us today, David.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. There's nothing I like more than talking about writing.
Absolutely. I can certainly understand that. That's one of my favorite topics as well. Now, I met David because I submitted something to Fine Lines, a poem, I'm sure it was a poem, to Fine Lines, and it was accepted. And from then on, we just started this relationship with Fine Lines because I was so impressed with the whole approach with this journal. One thing is the personalized feedback, personalized rapport with the journal, because one of the things that Fine Lines does is David has these periodic meetings with writers, and it helps keep us our finger in the pot of writing and stimulates the thought process. So, being this is such a unique journal, and it's been going on for 30 years. Congratulations, David, on 30-year anniversary.
I'm the most surprised person of all. Who knew that 3 decades of Fine Lines would continue that long? Something that started as a 4-page pamphlet in one high school class is now 4 books a year, and each book approaches 300 pages each. I'm pleased.
Wow. And in those 300 pages, there are like, about 80 some nations involved. Is that right?
Well, we had no idea that we were going to grow like this, and I'm excited about that. And during the 30 years, we have published people from all 50 states and the United States of America. And we have, in 3 decades, published people from 85 other nations.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. So let's go back to when Fine Lines was a baby. How did it begin?
How did Fine Lines begin? Well, I've taught at one level or another in education for 50 years. And I suppose any teacher who's around that long will eventually get their quote class from hell. And 3 days before the semester was going to start in this high school that I was in, which is a very good school, the principal put 30 challenge students in any way you want to define the word challenge. They showed up in that class, and after the first day of class, I went down to see the principal, and I said, "Why did you put me in this class?" Because he gave me the assignment 3 days before the semester was going to start, so it was a surprise. And all he told me then was, well, the teacher couldn't handle that class and had personal issues to deal with, and he had to redo her schedule, and I had an open period during this class. So he said, "I put you in it. I figure you can do it." Well, I thought I could teach anybody anything after I'd taught for 20 years, and I was wrong. And after that first class, I went to see the principal, and I said, "Did you really put me in this class? Because all the reason you said before was I had an open period." And he coughed and sputtered and said, "Well, I asked 3 other teachers, and they said no. And one even said, 'Hell no, I'm not going to teach that class.'" So I kind of laughed with him. What else was I going to do? But all these students were there for different reasons. And one was a 19-year-old girl who already had 3 children of her own. And every time I said, "Okay, take out your pencil, let's write," she would take out her crayons out of her purse, and she tried to write her high school essays in crayon. Okay, so we had different levels of understanding different attitudes. That semester, I had more visits from parole officers after school than I did parents. Half of the students, half of the 30 students in that class were on parole for one legal offense or another. And goodness, everything I knew about teaching, I had to metaphorically throw out the window because they weren't working in this class, and I had to reinvent how to teach high school students who were, quote, called losers by other students, had failed every English class, and many of them, they were in this class because it was their last attempt to get a passing grade. If they did not pass this class, their performance was so poor at the high school level, they were going to be kicked out of school. If they were kicked out of school, I mean, they were really low-level students. They were going to be kicked out of the district. Many of those students had family members that were already on the street, living out of cars. They knew they were going to be right there with them. Many of those students had people who in their family were already convicted and in prison. Oh my, it was the biggest challenge of my educational career. I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to say, oh, I can't teach these guys. So it was one of the best learning experiences of my life, how to get along with people. It took many of them a couple of weeks to realize I was really trying to help them.
Mhm.
And when they finally figured that out, the chemistry started, and I was so amazed that they really did have valuable stories to tell. They would talk about the stories in that class, and I was captivated. But just as soon as I said, okay, let's take out a pencil or a pen and write our words down, their eyes would glass over, they'd freak out, problems would start, discipline issues were raised, and they were afraid. I don't know, that's the only word I can think of. They were afraid to admit they didn't know how to write a sentence. Couldn't even give me the correct definition of a paragraph.
Mhm.
Those kinds of things. So
Right.
I've been asked this question so many times before, and I'm trying to give you the short answer because we have a time commitment here on the podcast. But one time in front of a bunch of educators, they asked me that question, and I talked for an hour and 20 minutes, and I started crying 3 times, and
Oh,
they wouldn't let me quit. They wanted to hear it all. And it's emotional.
yeah.
I could, we're talking about 1991,
Mhm.
and our first publication was 1992. So that class of 1991 with all of those troubled students led me to start a pamphlet that I circulated in the school. And I had one teacher come up all huffy puffy in my face in class in front of the students and said, the person on the front page of this pamphlet did not write this essay. And I said, Mrs. So-and-so, I saw him write it in this classroom in front of my eyes. She called me a liar.
Mm.
And that student was in her class the previous year, and they had so many fights that it was Hollywood movie material.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. And finally, she huffed and puffed out of the room. And I just looked at the class and I said, well, we all have our bad days. And I got a big laugh. And we went on. But the person on that front page that she was talking about, I've kept his name anonymous because he asked me to years ago, and I've never said who that was. So I just call him Jack.
Mhm.
And And then people really wanted to know more about this person. I said, well, didn't take long. We started calling him Black Jack. And he was a white Caucasian kid. He was 6'4", taller than me. He had more hair on his face than I've ever had in my life on mine. He should have been on every athletic team this large school had, but no coach would take him because he had so many anger management issues that on the first day of practice for a couple of sports in previous years, he'd walk into the locker room, find the biggest, strongest other kid in the locker room and punch him in the nose and start a fight. And goodness, word got around, no coach would touch him. And what a loss, what a pity. So Black Jack wore black clothes every day, all day, in this unair conditioned high school in downtown metropolitan Omaha. And the first day of this class was before Labor Day. Temperature was 92 degrees. We had a couple of students that passed out from the heat and the humidity. We had kids throwing up in class. And Jack showed up for this class with a long sleeve black shirt, a black leather jacket, duster, that cowboys used to wear in the 1800s. Oh, if you know the weather in Omaha in August, holy cow, it's humid, it's hot. He had black cowboy boots on, and I made him take his black sunglasses off. And he knew he had to get along with me because the principal had a one-to-one with him. And this was his last chance, like I said, to pass, or he was going to be kicked out of class, expelled from the district and all that. So he took off his glasses. He did not speak to me. He nodded for a yes. He shook his head side to side for a no. And that's how we communicated from before Labor Day in August, the last week of August, until the week before Thanksgiving. We did not hear the sound of his voice. He turned in enough work so he had a passing grade. He'd come in, he'd that long stride, all those muscles. He was physically fit in every way. And he'd sit in the back, the next to the last seat in the second row, right in front of Charlie. Well, Charlie was about 5'4" and giggled. He had low aptitude, but he was harmless. And Black Jack protected Charlie. Charlie knew this. Sometimes Charlie would speak up and everybody in class, all the students would laugh because sometimes it didn't make much sense. Turned out he had a 4th grade reading ability, 4th grade in high school. Okay, so we had, goodness, every character you can think of in that class. Okay, I'm not stringing this out. I'm selecting what to tell you. There's so many stories. The week before Thanksgiving, I came into class and I had printed this 4-page pamphlet. Previously, I'd gotten permission from everybody in the class that I could publish some of their writing. And most of the writings were 2 or 3 lines or 1 paragraph. And then here was Black Jack on the front page, an essay. Must have been 7, 8 paragraphs. And it turns out Black Jack was the smartest kid in class and he was hiding it from everybody. And all those other teachers, just thought he was a loser. He was a together kid he couldn't handle management. His family life was absolute hell. He had a basement floor that was dirt in the house he lived in. He maybe saw his father once every 3 months. His mother, my goodness, she had her own stories to tell. Okay, so he's basically alone, growing up, teaching himself how to be a man, making mistakes left and right. So the week before I put together the pamphlet, we had them write, I had them writing, and he was so angry while he was writing. I was walking up and down the rows and the class was quiet and they were really into the topic. They were all trying. And then I heard this pop and I turned to Jack and he had such a grip on his number 2 pencil, he broke it in half. And I had another one in my pocket. I went over, I didn't say a word. I handed it to him. He grabbed it out of my hand and continued where he stopped that sentence and finished another page and put it down, put the pencil down on his desk so loudly, everybody turned around. Anyway, I typed all that up. The pamphlet was done. I walked into class the following week. I started passing them out. And before I got the pamphlet to everyone, Blackjack stood up with so much force, the loose student seats that were in that room, he knocked his over just standing up so fast. And I remember 3 boys on the other side of the room dove to the floor because that seat tipping over sounded so loud that they thought they didn't know what it was. If it was a gun going off,
Right.
what was happening, a fight started, they just dove to the floor automatically for protection. Oh, Jack, why am I on the front page, he said, with a couple other profanities tacked on, and started walking out of the room. I said, Jack, you can't leave. Come back here. You belong in this class. We want you in this class. I had to follow him out in the hall, and I had to talk to him for 10 minutes and get him not to leave, let him calm down. I didn't even know why he was mad. And every time I asked him why he was mad, he got madder. And then finally, I just reached out and I didn't know what was going to happen. I had to do something to calm him down. He was standing out in the hall, tears coming down his eyes. He eventually started sobbing. His hands were crossed in front of him. And I just gently as I could, with my fingers, with my right hand, I touched his left elbow that was crossed in front of him. Just barely touched it. And didn't know if he'd strike back or yell louder or what. And he gasped that I touched him. And inhaled, I can still hear that sound. And absolutely bawled in front of me. Nobody else was in the hall. And I have not always made the right decision, but I made the right one that time. I just shut up and let him cry.
Right.
He must have cried, I don't know, for a whole minute or maybe it was 2, I don't know. And he had to breathe sometime. And I said, come on back into class. We're going to work together. That's how Fine Lines started. And every time we published that pamphlet, it grew. And then I started getting submissions from other teachers. And I never talked to that one woman that came into our class and said that Jack was a liar and I was a liar ever again.
Yeah. I guess that she finally learned the truth of the matter.
I hope so.
Yeah, you were making a difference in the lives of these students. What a great
So
story.
going from that 4-page pamphlet to 4 books a year is one of the happiest things I've had happen to me in my life. And now we're getting submissions. I love to turn on the internet, the computer. I love to go to the mailbox. We get submissions from all over, including yours. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you feel a yay about mine. Yeah, I talk about fine lines to a lot of people, so I'm hoping that that fills your inbox.
We love it. And uh, artists of all types have a compassionate streak or a compassionate pocket. They put ideas in to share with other artists in their field. And Fine Lines is all about helping artists. I mean, we publish poets, we publish essayists, we publish chapters out of novels. We've published almost every genre that I can think of, and including photography and drawing and painting. So writers helping writers is a great thing. And that's what
Yes,
we do.
yes. I know you have meetings periodically on usually a Sunday afternoon that are virtual and bring in different writers and come up with writing assignments.
The virtual connection isn't for everybody. I understand that. Some people would only want to meet in person, but in this world, we've been shown that that's not always possible. And technology is a wonderful thing. We've got GoToMeeting technology, we've got Zoom technology. Some people have told me that they really like uh, the feeling of togetherness with our Zoom meetings, like you said, on Sunday
Yeah.
afternoons. And we can talk to people in Canada and Mexico and Nigeria and
Mhm.
Pakistan and San Diego and Long Island and North Carolina and Omaha, Nebraska. It's like we're all sitting around the campfire telling stories. And
Yeah.
I like that.
Now, somebody wants to submit to Fine Lines. What do they need to do?
Please go to our website at finelines.org and see what we're all about, FINELINES.org. We have under issues one sample book that is open and free for anyone who wants to see what our books look like. And we have submission guidelines on our website and a lot of information. Take a look at that. And my email is fine-lines@cox.net. And that's the direct one to me. And there's another email address on our website that you can submit information to if you like.
Okay. Yes, and I will put that information, the links in the show notes so that people can go to them and find your information. And about how many writers are involved with this publication?
Oh my goodness. So that class where Fine Lines started with that pamphlet, eventually every one of those 30 students was published. Even the girl with 3 children of her own at 19 and wrote in crayon. I found some poetry in those words of hers. They were
Mhm.
colorful in more ways than one. The crayon helped, but she had some ideas that were refreshing, and we shared those. Now our books, 300 pages, we often have 150 plus people printed in each issue. So it varies from issue to issue, but
Mhm. Yeah,
we
I'm
try to get as
showing.
many in as possible. We like new writers, and we follow standard English, the rules of standard English, and we have review editors that go over everything that is submitted, and if necessary, we recontact the writers, the poets, the artists who submit to us, and if there's something that needs to be talked about, we have our editors do that.
Great. I'm showing a picture of the cover of the book, the most recent one now. beautiful photography that you have on the cover. That was so
This
nice.
this particular cover was done by Karen Cater, and she is also a poet, and that is the Platte River that goes through the heart of Nebraska.
Hmm. Now we're going to switch gears. I want to talk about summer camp. It's coming up.
Yay!
Tell us
So
about this.
this is our 30th year of publication of the issues, but this is also our 22nd year of having a creative writing camp. And over the years, we've adjusted our camps to the interests of the participants, but we try to get young people, elementary and middle school, high school involved. And lately, we've had a big surge of college students and adults. So on this flyer, which is also on our webpage, our website, you can see we have an hour for elementary and middle. We have an hour for high school every day for 5 days straight, June 14th to the 18th, Zooming. And then the college and adults, we're going to experiment and have 2 different times. Some adults are home during the day, and maybe they're stay-at-home moms or whatever their schedule is, and children might be at school, so they're free, where in the evening they're busy because everybody's home. And then
Right.
there are some adults that work during the day and they're free at night. So we're going to try and work around people's schedules the best we can.
Great.
So some people call this a boot camp. Well, that's a humorous way to look at it. We take writing seriously. The camp is every day during those times, but then when they're not in the Zoom class, we want them writing. The goal, the mission for the campers of every age group is to have a finished product by Friday or Saturday, have it sent to me by Sunday, and hopefully we'll be able to publish every single person who comes to summer camp in the next 4 books within the next 12 months before the next summer camp starts.
Okay. And one of the nice things too, speaking of publishing in the books, you said there's in one of the 4 is that a person can submit and then they can submit again and again. It's not like that's a
Yes.
one and done type of thing. And
Well, that's right. We're a totally nonprofit organization, a 501c3 educational literary publication. And this whole operation is provided through the generosity of donations of people who are interested in what we do. And we are here to serve. Our mission is to help writers grow. People come to us with all different types of abilities, interests, and publication ideas. We just are here to help everybody grow in their own way. We want them to stick around. We're not a one and done kind of thing. Some publications are, but we can't also think that we can publish everything by everybody.
right.
So send us your best work. When you submit something, the writer, the poet, the artist should think this is the best I can do. Or in your submission, say it is still a rough draft. Will you please help me? And we have people who love helping other writers grow.
Right. Absolutely. I've even got, feedback from you with mine, and it's helped me grow, especially when it comes to writing essays. So I appreciate it.
Good.
So, yeah, I could say one of the things I really like about Fine Lines is it's more personalized, and I appreciate that. Well, David, I really appreciate your taking the time with me today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I would really like people who are listening to this to contact me and see if there's some way that we, through our sharing of abilities can help each other become better. One of the happiest moments of my life was when I had a writer who I'd never met send a note in and say that since this person was in elementary school, he thought he had ability, but not one teacher all the way through his public education patted him on the back or said, "Nice job," until he sent something to Fine Lines, and 3 editors wrote to him and congratulated him on doing such an outstanding job. He said that he cried when he got that
Oh,
information back because no other teacher took the time to inspire him to keep writing. I was aghast. I couldn't believe that. I was a public educator myself for a long time, and I tried to inspire people no matter what their abilities were. Goodness. Anyway, that's the heart and soul of Fine Lines.
right.
Maybe maybe this thought I could leave everybody with. It means so much to me. Fine Lines is all about using our abilities to make a difference. And words matter. Words really matter. I don't know if you saw the Oscar ceremony recently, but when those singers were singing the main song, the theme song from the different movies, it was so moving. I love movies too, and I have helped people write movie scripts, and that's another art form, and using our abilities to make a difference. We end all of our meetings with 2 words. It's kind of a salute. We pick up our pens, hold them high in our hands, and say, "Right on,
Right on.
WRITE."
Thank you, David. And we'll end on that note. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.